The distinguished gentleman from Davao will now proceed. You're recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would my distinguished colleague from Mindoro answer a few questions?
Certainly, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, my questions really would be coming from a layman, so that we would have a more we would have an easy or more clear understanding of the issues involved in said speech, as well as in the issue at hand. Now, my first question to the distinguished colleague, are the facts laid in the Abellana cases or in the Nixon cases similar to the facts laid down under the Francisco case? Are the facts similar? Are the facts laid down in the Abellana case or the Nixon cases, Nixon case, similar to the facts contained in the Francisco case?
Similar, but again, there are distinct similarities and congruence that would render these particular cases as basis for my position that the recent petition filed, for which a status quo order was issued by the Honorable Supreme Court, is viewed and is deemed as judicial intervention of an impeachment case.
Thank you. Thank you, distinguished colleague. In law, that cases which are not similar as far as facts or doctrines therein are concerned would not be applicable to cases which are cases such as this, such as the case at bar, Madam Chair, Mr.
Precisely, Madam Speaker, is basic and fundamental, and this is the same in all of these cases that was referred to by our distinguished colleague.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that the facts involved in the Abellana case are mostly or deal on ratification cases instead of impeachment or impeachment procedure. So this representation would humbly submit that the Abellana case does not hold water in this argument. Another question, Madam Chair, distinguished colleague. This House, through the years, has enacted so many laws. Does the gentleman know of any law or may alam ho ba tayo ng mga batas which the Supreme Court voided or declared unconstitutional?
Of course, there are so many laws which had been declared unconstitutional, but I would like to earnestly request my distinguished colleague to hear me out that the proposition of this representation only pertains to impeachment cases. And the reason for this is because the Constitution, no less, empowered Congress to hear and decide impeachment cases solely and exclusively. And this is the reason why, in defense of this institution, I stood before this august body to defend this very institution, lest we abdicate our duty to defend the Constitution, to defend this institution that we are sworn to protect.
Thank you, distinguished colleague. Please don't get this representation wrong. We are also for protecting the integrity of the House. But before I go to your statement, would such a declaration of unconstitutionality constitute judicial intervention as far as laws enacted by this Congress is concerned?
No, it is not, because that is within the powers of the judiciary as mandated by the Constitution.
Thank you. Very well. If such is the case, that such declaration does not constitute a judicial encroachment upon the sphere of the House, then may I therefore public provision of the Constitution, Article 10, particularly Section 5, which was also Article 11, I'm sorry, Section 5 of the Constitution, which was also laid down under the Francisco case. In fact, it was clearly laid down. It says that no impeachment proceedings shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a period of 1 year. Isn't the same the issue and the case at bar, Mr. Chair, Mr. Distinguished colleague?
The basic principle of, or the doctrine of separation of powers, and there must be observed judicial or interdepartmental or branch courtesy, and that they should not, or other branches of government like the executive and the judiciary should not intervene only in impeachment cases, because it is a non-justiciable political question that I would say excludes the Honorable Supreme Court from enforcing its power of judicial review on this on Congress.
Thank you, distinguished colleague. This representation has no qualms or confusion as to what jurisdiction the House of Representatives has. It is very clear. The House may initiate. The Senate will hear and try. But the issue, Mr. Chair, this is a distinguished colleague, so that we will not beat around the bush. The issue here is the validity or constitutionality of the rules on impeachment. Same article of the Constitution provides that Congress shall promulgate its rules on impeachment to effectively carry out the purpose of this Constitution. In other words, Mr. Speaker, the House will come up with its own rules.
This is beyond review of the Supreme Court or of the judicial branch of government, because this is internal to us. This is not subject to judicial review. This is a political question. This is a non-justiciable issue.
I'm quite perplexed over the word non-justiciable or political issue. Mr. Chair, political question for this matter.
Matters not falling under impeachable provision or impeachment provisions of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, in the same vein, or in its decision, what will review or who will review the decision, the erroneous decision of the Supreme Court? I guess these are matters that the Constitution, by virtue of the doctrine of separation of powers, had left to its own jurisdiction and to its own jurisdiction to resolve. And this is the point that I would like to emphatically make before this honorable, before this august chamber.
Thank you. These actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable, and so on and so forth, provided under Article 8, second paragraph of Section 1. The gentleman from Cagayan de Oro earlier has already elaborated on the separation of powers as well as on checks and balances. I would not rather go there because we would be, as I've said, beating around the bush. May I ask my distinguished colleague from Mindoro then, what is the job of the House of Representatives or Congress in general?
I guess the good gentleman, we enact laws, we make our rules. I guess this must be clear to everyone here who are members of this House. And these are matters that ought not to be asked of anyone.
Thank you. That's very enlightening. In fact, that is very clear. We, the Congress, is tasked to enact laws. And therefore, who is tasked to interpret laws?
The point, Mr. Speaker, is the power on impeachment cases. We are not talking here of matters pertaining to interpretation of law. There is no question on that. That is what I said earlier, that the power of judicial review is for the Supreme Court, and ours is the power to enact laws. But we also have a sole mandate to hear and try impeachment cases to the exclusion of other branches of government. And this is solely reposed on this institution called Congress that this representation is defending before all of us here, and even to the as representatives of people, we are defending our position as representatives of people to perform our bounden duty to defend this institution.
As I've said, let me reiterate, I have no problems. I'm not even confused as to who has jurisdiction over who may initiate impeachment proceedings and who can try. But the issue here is not who may initiate or who may hear and try. But the issue here is the validity of the rules. You see, Mr. Chair, Mr. Distinguished colleague, it is already an established practice in law that, which was also expounded by the gentleman from Cagayan de Oro, that doctrines can no longer be subjected to interpretations, not even from lawmakers like us, because said doctrines already form part of the laws of the land. So in other words, whatever we say, that the Francisco case says this and says that, it is very clear that under the Francisco case, it followed the Supreme Court, and in fact, it was very specific. Again, that no impeachment proceedings shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a period of 1 year. So, Mr. Speaker, may I therefore ask, if the Supreme Court cannot question or cannot entertain any questions as to constitutionality or validity as far as constitutional provisions are concerned, then who, my distinguished colleague, Mr. Chair, who is therefore the final arbiter of the same?
The discussion with other principles except impeachment, the final arbiter is the Senate. Impeachment cases are sui generis. It is a class by itself. The present concept of impeachment began in England during the reign of Edward III to make royal officials accountable. But it was only during the reign of Henry IV that a formal process was adopted where the House of Commons initiated impeachment proceedings while the House of Lords tried the impeachment case without any limitation on the punishment to be imposed. Legal scholars hold the view that English impeachment partakes of a political proceeding and impeachable offenses are political crimes. That is the basic concept of impeachment cases, which I say is beyond the ambit of judicial review.
Thank you. The British government has no written constitution, Mr. Chair. Just like to put it in record that the job of the House is to enact laws. It may initiate impeachment proceedings, the Senate may hear and try, but on matters as far as constitutionality, interpretation, or matters of due process is concerned, this representation would submit to this august body that it is the Supreme Court within the limits or the bounds of the law that has sole and exclusive jurisdiction, and therefore it is the Supreme Court that is the final arbiter of the same. Now, I'd like to wind up since other interpellators have listed. My last question would be, has there been any instance that the House of Representatives has defied any order coming from the Supreme Court?
Should be properly addressed to the chair, or to the speaker, or to whichever department in this august chamber that handles the legal concerns of the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleague. I'd like to wind up by saying that there is no other body that could interpret the Constitution but the Supreme Court. In this case, there is no provisions of the Constitution, and therefore no judicial intervention as far as the jurisdiction of the House is concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you,
Thank you.
distinguished colleague from Mindoro.
Thank you, Mr.
What is the pleasure, distinguished